Let's do STATA today. So I'm expecting all of us in this group and already this meeting we have installed our STATA. So the first thing we're going to do is to launch our software. Now, if you have created a desktop, there is a shortcut on your desktop. I'm expecting you to have this STATA IC, and the version we shared is actually 15. But if you have any version, that is from version 13 to 17, it's still okay for this class. So if you have the icon, you can basically double tap to launch your STATA. If you didn't create a desktop, shortcut, that is a desktop shortcut, you can still press the Windows key and search STATA and search for STATA. The software will appear. Okay, STATA, it is IC15. So the software will appear and you can click open to open the software. And once you do, you will have your STATA open and I will have this window. This is what we are supposed to have when we launch our software. So without further ado, before we even start, I need to make sure that we are all on the same page. We have launched our software. So are we all there? Are we able to launch our software? We have that interface, because now we want to dive to the interface and all that. So if you have the interface, you have launched your software successfully, kindly type 1 on the comment. Otherwise you can type a 0. Awesome. I see 1 all through. You guys are prepared and you are ready to go. Now, yesterday, before even I dive to the interface, just to say a few words, I'm a storyteller, and then we proceed. Yesterday we were actually able to define STATA, and we were looking at it and we were saying that STATA stands for statistics and data. The STA stands for statistics, and the TA, the last TA, was actually picked from the word data. That is the TA in data. So STATA is a statistical software for data science or doing statistical computing, or rather you can say STATA is a software package for statistical analysis of data. That is the STATA as it stands, as a statistical software. Now, just like any other software, you can run a lot of analysis or other analytical aspects in STATA. One of them being the descriptive analysis that we have been doing. STATA is able to do the descriptive analysis. We can also look at and generate the relationship between variables. That is the capability of STATA now. As well, we can do some inferential analysis and even modeling, some advanced inferential analysis and modeling. It's very possible in STATA. And also graphics. STATA is actually awesome and good at graphics. It has good capabilities and able to generate some nice plots. So that is the capability of STATA. And STATA is preferred compared to some other softwares, because number one, it is very versatile. It is very versatile. What do I mean when I say it is very versatile? Now, in STATA here, you can use what we call the graphic user interface. Now, graphic user interface is this interface you are seeing, these menus that you are seeing. You can navigate to files and do some functionalities, go to edit, go to data, go to graphs and be able to generate graphs, go statistics and run statistical procedure, go to user and do all that. Just like we're doing in SPSS when we are running procedures. That is the graphical user interface. We are interacting with the interface and we are getting our desired output. Now, not only that, but STATA also has what we call the STATA commands language. We can actually write commands on this STATA, and those commands will give us the output. So because of those two aspects, that we can actually run procedures at the same time, we can do commands, makes STATA to be very versatile. It makes STATA to be very versatile. So it's up to you now to decide. You can use the commands or you can run the procedures. You can run the procedure. There is one aspect as why STATA is preferred. STATA is preferred. Now also, it has what we call help feature within this software. Within this STATA, we have a help feature, and we are going to look at it as we proceed. And basically, a help feature will help us be able to use the software. Like suppose, let me give an instance. I want a command to type a graph, but I really don't know how to do that. I really don't know the formatting, how we are writing that command, but I have an idea. I can ask for help from this software, and I get assistance from the software and be able to do what I really wanted to do, without even need to go and browse in the internet, look for that, or even maybe borrow a documentation, a book, and do. You can just get the help from the software itself. That is another reason as to why STATA is preferred. And you can even see there is a help under the menu. We have the help button there where you can navigate and get some help for various functionalities. We'll look at that. So those are two or rather three main components as to why STATA is preferred. STATA is preferred. Now, with that said, let's go back and discuss our interface. Number one, I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear, and I hope you can see my screen, because I don't want to speak and only to realize after maybe 40 minutes I've been speaking alone. I see you guys are here with me. Now, this is the interface when you launch your software. You can see top here we have the banner saying STATA AIC and it's version 15. This means that this is my STATA open. Now when you open this STATA, number one, you can see we have the menu bar. Very important to talk about that. Now the menu bar has various options, like we have files and we have various functionalities, just like we were looking at SPSS. From the file we can open, and you realize we can open a data file or a STATA file and all that. We can view various functionalities. We have do, this is now a do file. We'll talk about that. What is a do file? We can assign a name to file name and all that. So we can create logs. We'll talk about logs. They're very important. We can import data. You see, this is one aspect that we will always do. We can also export data and all that. We can print our output or results and all that. So that is one functionality that we will interact with. We have the edit. So again, we have various functionalities under edit. We have data. Now, when I was introducing STATA, or rather when I was telling you why STATA is mostly used, I was saying at one point, it is because it is very versatile. That is, you can use the graphical interface or you can run the commands. Now, those graphical interface I'm talking about are the procedures, and it is at this menu bar where you now get the procedures that now you can run. So you see, under data, I have data, described data. Maybe I want to see the data documentation. Under data, described data, you can see there is what we call the code book. You can inspect your variables. Data editor. That now is a procedure that will lead me to where now I'll be able to edit my data and all that. Now you can create or change data or variables and all that. So all that can be run using the data menu. Under the menu bar, we have the graphics, which means we can generate all those graphs using this procedure, the graphic user interface. So I can come to graph, plot a bar chart, a dot chart, a pie chart, survival analysis graphs, and all that using this simple procedure. And the same, we have the statistical option, or that is the statistic option under the menu bar, where we can now do our summary. We can analyze our data. Actually, we can do summaries, that is descriptive statistics and all that. We can check out various tests. You can see we have tests here. We have the parametric tests. We're talking about the t-test and all that. Again, we can have all other analysis from the statistics menu. That is the linear models, the nonlinear, the binary outcome. All those are found there. Now we also have user. Now user is basically for those that we look at this actually as we discuss about the user. That is the data, the graphic, and the statistics. We also have window. Now we'll talk about windows in STATA. There are various windows, just like those we were seeing in SPSS. The beauty about you guys, we have all been together from Excel to SPSS. Now when we were discussing about SPSS, you could see we have window where the output is being provided, a window where the data is. We had the variable window and the data the variable view and the data window. So those are various windows. Like right now here we have various windows. So those windows can be also accessed from the window menu bar. We also have the help. We will talk about the help, where now we'll be asking for assistance. Maybe we want to get at how the function is and all that. So we'll talk about that. Now that is the menu bar. Again, down here you realize one thing I also need to mention is that everything that you will run using a procedure, you can actually run the same using a command. You can simply write a command. A command is a statement that is instructing STATA to do a particular functionality, to do a particular analysis or functionality, not just analysis. Maybe we are creating a variable. So we will write those commands. So anything that you will execute using a procedure, you can actually do that using a command. And everything that you do using a procedure actually will automatically generate its command as it is executing. Now, because there are those commands that are mostly used, we have these buttons here, so that they can actually make those commands that are mostly used readily available. Like open. When we want, we'll be opening datasets. We'll be opening files. We'll be opening outputs. So we have it here. Now we have save. We'll always be saving the data sets and all that. That is why we have that option. Print. We have the log. We have the view. So all these options that are here are actually found on the menu bar. But only that, because they are always used. That is how that is why we have them readily available here, so that we can open, like the data editor, the data browser window and all that. So the variable manager, because they are commonly used, that is why they are highlighted here, so that you can make use of them. So that is the menu bar and what is contained at the menu bar. Let's come to this interface. Let's come to this interface. I hope I have not lost you guys. Oh yeah, you are here. The reason as to why I need to come here is because I have not logged in using my phone. My phone is charging. I've been using it all day for other meetings. So let's come to this interface now. Let's come to these windows that are here. You can see we have various chambers. It's actually divided. Now from here, very fast, I can see we have 5 windows that are currently open. We have the review window here that you can see. This panel, it's not actually a window search, but you can call it a panel or yeah. So we have this review panel here. Now we have this window here. That is where it's written STATA 15. That is the version, the statistics stroke data analysis. So that is another window we need to talk about. We have at the right top here, we have the variable panel here. We have down here, that right bottom, we have the property panel here. And we also down here, we have the command panel. So the question is, what do we do at each and every panel? Now let's start with this bigger panel here, the one that is written STATA statistical analysis and all those words, the one I have highlighted here. Now this is the output window. This is the output window. Whenever we are doing analysis, our output will be printed on this particular window. It is on this window where we'll be getting our output. As well, those commands, as they are executed, they will be executed here. You'll be seeing them here being executed. And our output will be generated on this particular window. That is it. Now, down here, we have the command panel. Now, on this panel, it is the panel where now we will be writing our commands and execute them on this panel. We will be writing our commands here and we'll be executing them on that particular panel. Now, on review here, this panel will actually keep a record of all those commands that you would have executed. Once you write a command, you run that command will be stored on the review, that particular panel, such that later on, all your commands will be listed here. We'll be seeing that all your commands will be listed here. So if you want your commands maybe to save them, you will have them all here and you can actually check them and save them. As well, if you want to rerun your commands instead of writing them, you can basically just get them here and rerun them as you proceed. That is the review panel. Now, coming to the right side of the interface, the top right, we have the variable panel. Now, this variable panel here is where now all those variables in that data set will be highlighted, or rather will be stored. So whenever I have a variable, you will see a variable list on this variable panel. So you'll have the name of the variable and the label Now, when we're introducing SPSS, we were talking about the name of the variable. So basically, the name of the variable is that unique name that identifies a particular variable. Remember when we were defining variables, and I was saying in layman term, a variable is like a question. So when I ask, what is your name? I mean, what is your age, for instance? Age is my variable. So the name of the variable is age. And there will be no any other variable named age except for that particular one. So that is its name. Now, label is basically a description of that particular variable. We're talking about this in SPSS. And I remember we were saying it is a description of that variable. Like suppose I can write there, the variable is the age. So the name of the variable is age. And for label I can say age represents the age of the respondents. So we were saying this is the variable panel, and it will list all the names of the variables that are there in the dataset, as well as the label. The label is basically a description of that particular variable. And I was saying, if my variable is age, my label can be, this represents the age of the respondents, represents the age of the respondents, and all that. Now, down right here, we have the property panel. Now, under the property panel, this panel will represent the properties of the variable that is currently selected on the variable panel here. Remember, we have a list of variables. So when we select one, you realize its properties will be the one highlighted under the property, under the variable on this property panel. So we'll have its name, the one selected there at the variable. The label, we have just said the label basically is a description of the variable. The type, and the type here in reference is what we call the data type of that particular variable. The format and the value label. We'll talk about value label when we are talking about categorical variable. And also nodes. So nodes, these are basically more of what is being described about the variable. We'll talk about all these today, so don't worry, in detail that is. And you'll see how we actually create all that. Now down on that panel, we have, under property, we have data. And we have name, label, and more or less like that on the variable. So basically, these are the properties of the dataset that we are currently using. That time, remember, you would have loaded your dataset. So that dataset you are using, its properties will be listed here. That is the name of the data file, the label, notes if any, and the variables that are there. That is now the number of variables that are there in that particular dataset. The observations, that is the number of the observation, the size and the memory and all that. So those are the panels that we will by default find whenever we launch our STATA. Again, there are other windows that will pop up as we do our analysis. Like for instance, we said this is the panel that will, the one highlighted here is the panel that will give us the output. But actually, this is the panel that will give us the output except for graphics. So when we plot a graph, a new window will pop up. A new window will pop up. So there are various, actually there are several windows that will pop up, and you will be able to see them as we continue navigating or rather writing commands in STATA. So also, apart from writing commands here on this command panel, we have what we call the do file. Now this do file, you can actually open a do file, and when you do, here, this is what we call the do file editor. Here is where now you can actually write your commands and execute them, and later save them as well. So you can as well write your commands here and execute them under do file, and when you do, you will still obtain the output on that particular interface we are talking about. So the beauty of using a do file is that you can later save your commands and then open the command file and rerun them. Or at times, as an analyst, you're provided with the data, you're required to do the analysis. Then, instead of submitting the output, you submit the do file. That particular person just rerun the commands from his end and get the desired output. And you'll do that in most of the cases. But either way, even if you run your commands on the command panel, don't save that. On the command panel, you can actually still, because your commands will be stored here on the review, it will keep a history of the commands. You can later on copy them and paste them in a do file and save them. So it is still okay. So as we continue, as we progress, there are still other various commands that will pop up, windows that will pop up, and we'll discuss them as we proceed. Up to that juncture, any question, any point that is not clear, you can ask. Oh, Lawrence was laughing. The young man was receiving. So if it is clear to you, you understand that introduction on those interface and all that, you can as well type 1. If not, type a 0. We are going together. We agree that we are not leaving anyone behind. So if that is clear, type 1. Yes, and don't feel shy to say it's not clear, because some of us maybe are not interacting STATA for the first time. So you may end up typing 1, but the colleague has been interacting with the STATA maybe at one point. So with that said, let's proceed. And I want to tell you this. Whatever you do, I'll repeat this statement. Whatever you do with a command, you can do with a procedure. And whatever you do with a procedure, you can do with a command. Whatever you do using the graphic user interface, that is a procedure, the command will also be generated in the process. Now, in most of the cases, as we introduce this class, as we proceed, I'll not focus much on the commands, even though I'll use commands now and then. Reason being, we are beginners, so we are learning. I want to take things systematic and simple. People struggle to master STATA commands in a hard way, going to the browser and ask and all that. But actually, one way to learn the commands is to run a procedure. It generates a command. You master it so that next time you don't have to run the procedure, but you write the commands. That is one way of running, learning STATA. Now, with that said, let's go to our first part of discussion, that is data entry in STATA. We are going to start with data entry. So how can we enter data to our STATA? Now, there are a number of ways that we can enter data into STATA. But either way, we can actually, okay, let me use the procedure, then maybe later on we'll do the command. So to enter data into STATA, we need to open what we call the data editor window. The data editor window under the graphic user interface. So we can open the data editor window. So there are a number of ways that we can open the data editor window. One, I can use a command. I can write a command here, edit. I can write a command, edit, and run that. To run, you just write enter. Just click enter. Edit, enter. And once you do, you can see my interface here. Let me maximize it. That is the interface that will open. And you see the banner at the top. It is data editor. It is data editor. So from here, we can enter our data. Okay, someone is requesting something. Yes, Lawrence.
Yes, mine is saying the command edit is unrecognized.
One thing that I need to mention is that STATA is case sensitive. So you ought to have write it using a small letter. Look at my command here. So whenever you write a command here, you click enter, it will be executed and it will appear at the output here. This is the command you have executed and there is no error. So Walter, did you see what is the problem from your end? Lawrence?
Yes.
It's now okay.
Let me try again.
Okay, kindly do. We are waiting
Oh,
for
yeah,
you.
it's now okay.
Okay.
Yes,
So stata
thank you.
is okay. Stata is case sensitive. When I say case sensitive, is that upper cases are treated differently as lower cases. So when you write edit using an uppercase, there is not a command. There is not a command. So this is the data editor window. This is where now we'll be entering our data, and we'll do that just in a few minutes. Now, instead of entering data here under editor window, we can still enter that data on the command window and come and see that data later on the editor window. We'll also look at that, so don't worry. That is why I'm saying instead I will blend procedure commands. So you focus on both. And once you run a procedure, you get a command. So it is up to you now. Now, there are also several ways of opening the editor window. Instead of writing edit, because I've used the procedure, I will close this window. You can come to data, and you see here there is data editor. And under data editor, we have data editor and data editor in bracket edit. And we have data editor in bracket browse. Now, I want to talk about the difference of these two under data editor. Data editor in bracket edit is that data editor window whereby you will be able to enter the data, maybe to a new data file that you'll be creating. Or if it was data that you have imported and now you open it under the data editor in bracket edit, you will be able to change some values. You can modify your data set at the data editor window. That is under edit. Now for data editor in bracket browse, now this is a data browse window whereby you are only able to see your data set from this data, but you cannot actually do any editing. You cannot change values. You cannot change any value, but you can see the entire data set. We'll look at that. So now because we want to create our data, we will open under data editor. And this is the window. This is the window, the very same window. The very same window. So again, instead of going to that interface, we said the commonly used commands have their shortcuts here. You can see we have edit. So once I click that, it will open. It will open. So let me maximize. Okay, let me not maximize because of a reason. Now that is the data editor window. Now let me just maximize, and then I'll show you what I want to say. Now when I maximize, we can actually enter our data. And you can see here it has already given a name and say this is variable 1. So suppose we want to enter data. Let's say this is a class and we have students. Now the students have admission number. Let's say that is ID. So maybe the ID is admission number. Let's say 1. Then we have 2, and then we have 3. Now we are entering our data. Then we have 4. Now I'm moving downwards using the keyboard. That is the downward arrow, so I can move down, and 5. So that is the ID of the student. Now you can see Stata has already created a name to my variable and named it variable 1. Variable 1. And when you look at the right panel, we have under the variable panel, we have a variable named var1, and label, it is not labeled. So how do we assign a name to this variable? Because right now it is variable 1. And like I was telling you, whenever your variable is selected under properties, we have the properties of that variable. You can see there is a name, there is no label, there is data type, there is format. We'll talk about format, we'll talk about that. Don't worry about that. There is no value label. Now, because of not saved our data set, there is nothing about the data file as well. But you can see for observation, we already have one observation, one variable and 5 observation, and all that. So where do we assign our name of the variable? Now, under properties, the variable property, this is where now we can actually rename our variable. So we can actually give it a name and say the name of this is ID. So it is ID, and you click enter, and you can automatically see on this sheet here it is changing, and we have ID. We have ID. Now we also have label. You can actually put a label and say student ID, or rather the ID of the student, whichever way. I can say student ID, and I have a label. You can see now I have a label. So I have actually created my variable, and I can continue entering data and all that all through. Someone is having a question. I'm coming to you. Yes, Elvis.
Mine at the properties, it is not labeled.
But you are the one to label, Elvis. So you come at label, that is it. You come at label here and you give it a name. Is that clear, Elvis?
Yes.
Yes, Lawrence.
Yes, mine is refusing to label. It's not labeling.
Did you assign a name?
Yes, I'm trying to assign a name, but it's not typing at all. It's not responding.
Now look at what is happening from my end. I'm recreating another variable. So going back to my stata. Okay, I didn't want to show this actually first. Going back to my stata, suppose we want to create another variable here. So first I'll say maybe we want to save the age. So let's say the first person is 28, the second is 25. So already I've created a variable and it's named variable 2. Now we said we can rename it under variable. So what you do, you come and select that one particular variable that you want to give a name, because we said when you give it a name, when you select it, its properties will be highlighted like that. So here under name, come and click the name here. You see, once I click name, I come here, I click. You can see the cursor now. It is showing me now I can write. Now I can delete and I can write age. Walter, are you seeing that? And I click enter. Walter, are you able to do that?
I think yes, but mine is responding differently.
Yes, how is it responding?
Yes, when I go to the variables up there on the right,
yes,
you see like like when you go to the edge, uko kwa variables uko juu.
Here.
Yes, yes, hapo chini.
Walter, I'm not getting you. I hope you're still in the meeting.
Yes, I'm still on.
Yes. So what was your issue?
It's now responding. It's now responding.
So all is well, eh?
Yes.
Any other issue, Elvis?
I'm okay.
Good to go. Perfect. Now, let's go back to our stata. Okay, I didn't want to show you that. Okay, but we'll look at that. Don't mind. Let me close the. So now I was saying that. What was I saying? Yes, we are creating a second variable edge, and we are capturing the edge of various students. So I was saying 28, maybe 26, 50, 42, and 38, and 26. That is a star's edge. So that is our variable. So you see, we are creating a variable. We are creating this in our data set. And actually, we have an option to save here. So once you create your variables like that, now the data entry is just the same as what we do in SPSS. The same in Excel after you have done that. But now the question is, what about the categorical variable? How do we assign levels? I hope you remember that. So we'll discuss about that as well, so don't mind about that. But let's minimize this. Let's minimize this and see. We can actually minimize this window. See what is happening at our output. Actually, okay, I can even minimize that and find it later. Look here what was happening. Everything that we were doing was actually happening, or rather was actually generating a command. Because number one, we opened the data set. And we started generating. Now, to create a variable is like you are using the command generate. So we were generating a variable named variable 1. You see this command here. Let's look at this command, and this is how we will learn stata in most of the times. From the procedure, you get to understand the output even better. I mean the command even better. Now, the first step I was doing on that editor window, I was writing 1 as the ID. I didn't give a name to the variable if you are keen. I was writing 1, and automatically it was giving it a variable named var1. So this command in here means that I was generating a variable named var1. And in that variable named var1, I was storing 1 in the first observation. Then I went again to set the observation number 2. Now in variable 1, because now the variable has already been created, now what we are doing is to replace the values. We are putting the values. It's now blank. So we are replacing it with values. So replace in variable 1, 2 in the second row, that is. And that continues until my last observation for that particular variable. Then after I have entered, I now went ahead and renamed my variable using ID. So you can see the command is rename vari1 ID. Now the beauty about stata is, unlike programming languages like Python and R, is that its command are English. You see, they are English words: replace, rename, set, use. All that, even when we're doing regression, just to steal some knowledge, you see, regress, browse, if you want to see the data, edit, if you want to edit and create a variable. So it's English actually. The only problem with stata Okay, not a problem actually, but the issue is that also SQL is using English, so at times you may, but it's not a confusion. I was saying that because today I remember I was doing SQL and we have the command drop. We need to drop a database and all that. So you can use the drop here to drop a variable and all that. It's English. Now, which means that instead of doing data entry there, we can actually do the data entry on the interface. We can create a new variable under the command using this simple command, using the generate command. Now, we can actually create a command. We can actually create our other variable in this context. So let's create another variable using a command. So we want to create the variable sex, which will store the gender. So can either be 1 or 2 and all that. So to set a command, to create a variable, we use the generate function. Not a function, sorry. We use the generate command. Now, what is the beauty about Stata is that you don't even have to write the entire word. Like the word is generate, like that. But now, actually, Stata understands right from the first three letters up to that. So anything, if you write generate with just gen, like you delete this first one, gen, like that, it knows that is the generate command. That is the beauty. If you write the E, it's still okay. So the minimum is 3. So I can actually say gen to represent generate. So what am I generating? Generate a variable sex. Generate a variable sex. And after we generate a variable sex, we want to store a value in our first observation. So let's say if we see is female is 1 and if it's male is 2. So let's just say assume the first person was female 1. So store 1 in the first observation. And we run that. Once you do that, you can see here we have actually created our variable sex. So now we have our variable sex. It has been created. Again, what I forget to mention, or rather I didn't mention, is that all these commands we are running here. Actually, you can see them on the preview. They're all the commands are here. All of them are here, these commands. And actually, if I double tap a command or I select a command, it will come on this panel, and I can rerun that. So like maybe I want to rename my variable. I know how to use this command. So you see I've just selected rename. Now I need to do some modification to that command. So rename. What am I renaming? I'm renaming the variable. We have already given a name to sex. That is the beauty. Now we're giving a name to that. But now because we have a name, we can label. So you can actually, instead of rewriting label and all that, you can just tap that command, it comes there. And you say label variable sex. Label variable sex. To what name now? And you give it a name, and let's say it's the gender. It's the gender. I'm coming to you. It's the gender. And you run that. You can see now here, sex has a label gender. Actually, I didn't also label age, so we can say label variable. You need to state your label. What are you labeling? I'm labeling a variable. And what is the name of the variable? The variable is age. Remember, it's case sensitive. Now also, instead of writing age, you can just come to that variable and click that arrow. It will come on the command. So label variable age. Now the label should be quoted because it is a character. They are words, and I write age of respondent. Age of respondent. And you enter, and you see now it has my label. I have my label. Yes, someone is having a question. Kindly ask. Kindly ask.
Sir, from my end, I can't see the preview panel.
Actually, that is very true. These panels that we have, at times they can disappear. Not that they disappear, but you can see there is this pin here. It means they are pinned on this interface so that they can appear. But actually we can unpin them and make them disappear. So when I click that, you see down here we don't have the properties. The properties are not there. But now again it can. But we have close. You can close that as well, and it automatically closes. So the same way a stars, this one is closed, but now this one is there, but you can still pin. So a star, this one is not there, and because there is no that even the name maybe is not there, she's not able to see that. Those are some cases that we will actually find whenever we are doing our analysis. Now and then, those are some issues that we need. So whenever you find there is a panel that you are not seeing here, you can go to the window. Under the windows, you can actually get any panel. So when I go to window, you see you have the various windows. You have the command. Suppose the command is not there. You have the results. Suppose it is not there. And the keyboard shortcut as well. You have the review. So a star review is not there. So when you click review, it will appear. When I go to window and I click variable properties, because right now they are not there, it will appear. That is how we bring them back and we remove them. If we don't want them, we just want to have a nice look of our output. Esther, have I answered your question? Is your issue resolved?
Yes, thank you.
Another chance to have a bite?
Yes, I have just a concern. So if umeandika command hapo, then ikuandikie variable, maybe like the one for age of respondent, label variable age of respondent, ikuandikie variable age not found. So can you repeat that command once again?
So Lawrence is asking, you are saying you are having an error, literally.
Yes.
So you kindly repeat your question, Lawrence.
Yes. So I wrote a command, then it brought an error. So is it possible you write it again? You write the command again. And what if you write the command again? Will it affect the results, or there is no problem with that?
Now, whenever you write a command and it is not executed, it gives an error. It means that command has not done anything to your data set, or it didn't execute, it didn't have any effect to your output. So if you still need to achieve whatever you are trying to achieve, you need to correct that error. You need to correct that error. Maybe I give an example. This command, label variable here. You see, I know very well that label that I'm to give after the command is to be quoted. But now instead of quoting, I'm not quoting, and I just put enter. That is an error. And there are several various types of error, like this is syntax error. there is an error in syntax in the way the command is supposed to be. That is the syntax error. Now, this command doesn't have any effect to the data set or to anything because it is incorrect. It is incorrect. It is like you want to switch on a phone, but now you are pressing a wrong button. Will it switch on? Definitely it will not. So the only way I can do is to rewrite that or recorrect that command. So maybe I'll double tap, I'll tap that, it comes here, and I correct. I know, oh, I discover I was supposed to put a command like that, and I run that. So it's now okay, because whenever it doesn't give an error, it means it is okay. Now when you're told the variable, maybe suppose what I was doing, I was labeling variable sex to gender, and it is telling me sex is not found. It means that in the first place I didn't create a variable named sex. So first I need to generate that variable. It's when now I can assign a variable, a label. Now at times you find that the variable is there, it is sex, and I've really said here label variable sex, but still the saying sex is not found, the variable sex is not found. What could be the issue? It could be a very small issue. Maybe the way you declared your variable, the way you generated your variable, the name you gave your variable is not actually as you are writing it in your command, and more so when it comes to capital letters and small letters. Maybe you are putting a capital S where your name is having a small, or the vice versa. So STATA does not recognize that variable. It is new. Capital S and small s are two different objects in this context. I don't know if I'm making sense, Walter.
Yes, thank you.
Another concern. So you can see that we have created our variable sex, and we have given it a name and a label gender. Now let's go and see in the data where now we have actually created that variable. So you can just write edit to open the edit window and run that. Oh, it is edit. You see now the problem. I wrote it, the syntax. So edit, and I have my variable, my data edit window. So I have my variable sex, and the first one is 1. So I need maybe to continue. Now you put it like in Excel. You have created your variable 3, 4, 5, and all that. No. Sex was supposed to be 1 and 2. 1 and 2 like that. Now, even if the way we are entering the data here, we can actually still enter the data in the command, and it will appear on this end. You see, we are saying replace sex 2 is equals 2 in 7 and all that. So we can use the same command to do that. As well, we can actually enter data for the entire variables that are there using one command. Suppose we have, look at this data window, the data editor window. Suppose now I have the 8 observation here for ID, for age, and for sex. So I want to put the ID, the age, and sex once and for all at the command. Is that possible? The answer is yes. You can actually use the command and replace all those values. But in most of the cases, you realize it is, instead of writing a whole command, replace in ID, age, sex, 1, 24, maybe the age, and 2 for the gender. You see, you'll be writing a command. It is easy now entering the data here, just as once you create your variables. You just enter here on a spreadsheet. This is just like a spreadsheet. This is just like a spreadsheet. Now, I want us to show something interesting, or rather important. We have what we call the data types here. We will talk about all this. We'll talk about all this in detail. But in the meantime, basically in STATA, the data type is divided into two main. There is numerical or characters, or other strings. Those are alphabetical letters. Maybe you have a variable stored in name. So you see name, those are characters. Or maybe we have a variable stored in age. You see that is numerical. Yeah, this meeting is supposed to take exactly 2 hours, because at 10 I have a meeting to attend. So in this 19 minutes, let's just do something. It's 20. So when you are creating this variable using a command, and more so in the variable, the data type, you realize by default STATA will take the data type to be numerical. Like, look at this command. We were creating the variable sex. We're creating this variable sex. So we are using the generate, and we were saying generate sex, and in the first observation have it 1 to represent female. I will look at that, how we can declare the levels and all that. Now, here, STATA is assuming by default, without specifying otherwise, STATA knows that the variable sex is numerical. So those values that will be stored there are numerical in nature. I want us to do something. Maybe we'll run this procedure. Now I know you guys are really excited to have that data. Let me do something. So I want us to drop that variable. Now, to drop a variable is like you are removing a variable from the data set. You can see I've said drop sex, and the variable has been removed from the variable. So the reason as to why I want to drop sex is because I want us to redefine it and see. I want to demonstrate a very important aspect. Now, drop sex. Now, in this function generate sex, we are supposed to write the function. I'm not finding anything. In this function, generate sex. Let's say it is sex. Now, in the first variable, store female, like that. In the first variable, store female, and we run that command. That command will give an error, and it's telling me female is not found. You can see that. But someone will be saying the error is because female is a string, a word that is, and you have not quoted that. And I will say, okay, then let's quote that. Let's quote that and see what will happen. So when I quote that and I run that by clicking enter, it is still telling me too few quotes. Okay, this is too few quotes because for the first they are not consistent. So let me just put them to be consistent. Two. If you use double quotes, use double quote. If single quote, single quote. And I run that. So it's telling me generate sex, and in the first I have female in the first observation. So let's browse and see. Let's go to edit and see. So just say edit and you run, and you'll see my sex has the variable female. Now, This one is quite interesting. But realize in most of the cases, at times, stata, whenever declaring a variable or rather generating a variable, you will actually find that it is assuming that the data is numerical. Those values are numerical. Let's take this first command here. Let's take this first command here, the one that had an error. You can get it also here on the review. Just click and I paste it here. Now before the variable name 6, I'll write the data type, that is the str. It's a string, and we run that. Okay, it is already existing. The variable is already still existing. So now I'll say drop. Okay, I hope I'm not confusing you. Let me drop, and then I want to, oh, I didn't say 6. Drop the variable 6. So I run that. Now under this command, I've just added str. Remember, this command initially was giving us an error. So will it still give us an error? It is still giving us an error telling us female is not found. Now, what is the reason? The reason is this female needs to be quoted because it is a string. So it is important to take note about that. Now again, at times stata will take the variable name to be by default numerical. So it is always good to also specify the structure by having the str here. So we can actually recorrect that command by quoting this and also have the structure, the data structure, and we enter. That is the best way to write it whenever you have a string argument, wherever you have a character. It is good to include the data structure. And in most of the cases, you find that in most of the cases, we even have structure and we say 10 and we run that, but the variable is already there. Now the structure 10, this structure represents the data type. It's characters. Now the 10 represents the maximum number of alphabetical letters that will be allowed there. The size. So if it's a name, we're expecting it to have more than, at most 10. So when we go to our edit, we have our variable created 6, and we have the first observation. Now you can fill in for the remaining. That is how we enter data in stata under editor window. Now once you're done doing that, you can save your data. So you can save your data by just clicking there. You navigate to where you want to store your data. So I've created a folder stata here, and you see the extension is stata. So I can, that is .dta. So I can save this and say almond1.dta, and I save my data. So my data is now saved. So the save, instead of navigating and saying save and all that, we can actually come and run this command. We can actually come and run this command. You just say save. After saying save, you open the double quotation. You go to that folder where you want your data to be saved. This is the folder. So I'll show you that maybe this is what you're doing. You come to that folder, so you navigate to that particular folder. So my folder is here. Wherever the folder is you right click that under properties, you can see this is the location here, the location. So I'll copy that location, just copy that location, then come back to your stata. You can space and there is no difference, and then you paste. After pasting now, you put a backward slash and you write the name of that data file, that the name that it will take. Now you can't save because it is already saved. So I can say data and the extension, so it will save as a .dta. That is the extension for stata. And you run that command. So you see this one is simple because the command is save, and this is the path and the name .dta. So you don't have to navigate. You can just use the command and you click enter, and it has saved. So actually when I go there, I'm expecting to find 2 data files. So we come to this folder here and I right click that, and when I do, okay, this is the stata. Okay, let me just check the path. Let me recheck the path because file, users, desktop, data, saved. Oh yeah, I know the reason, but we are still running this data file, but we'll get it. We will get it there once we are done. So that is one way you can save your data. Actually, those are 2. You can use the procedural, or you can use the command as well. So you see, you can actually now this red you are seeing here is because we are having some errors, and some of them, you know, they are intentional. Like I wanted to show you the various ways we can commit some errors. So that is how we enter data in stata. That is how we enter data in stata. Any question so far? Any point that is not clear? Any concern? You can ask as we proceed. Any question? Yes, Amina.
Okay, like you have said earlier, that you want to generate a variable, let's say sex. Now it is generate sex, and then you say you want female to be in 1. So at the data editor, we have that the output as we have the sex and the female at that first box. Now you are saying we have to fill the other box. Can we not use a command to fill the boxes? Like, is there a command to fill the remaining boxes, the remaining values?
Yes, there is a command. You can use replace and any other. There are several commands actually that you can use. And I was even saying, you can actually write a command that is filling in all those 3 variables, if there are 3, in that order. So it is in that particular row, in that particular observation. So it is filling for this one, then it is filling for the other one, in that order. Now that is the replace command. We are replacing values in that particular row. Now you need to put them a set after set, set after set. So you see, you will use a lot of time doing that. Like coming on the command, writing, maybe you are having 10 observations. So you see, you write first command, put in first row, second, third, even if you are writing for all those variables. But for me, I find it easier using the editor window, because that I have created my variables. It is just like in Excel. I'll just decide fit for this and then come for that. Rather than writing those commands, I mean, it will take a lot of time. It will take a lot of time. But you can, of course you can. Definitely you can. Like for that female, I can just come here and say replace. It is just the same, and actually I don't have even to write this. You see the commands are here, so I can just check that. Replace in this is male now. Let me say male in the second observation, and I run that. So when I edit, I go to edit, you see male is there. So you can use command, you can use the editor window. Have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other question? Any question, any point that is not clear, any concern, ask those questions. We are still on data. We have not done any analysis. Yes, Morrison.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Morrison.
I have a question on. I was not able to define the female and male. It is saying that variable sex already defined.
Oh yeah. There is. It means there is already a variable named sex, and now you're trying to create another
Hello?
variable. Yes, Morrison. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I was saying, the reason as to why it is saying that is because you already have a variable named sex. So you cannot create a new variable of the same name. Unless now you remove that variable, you drop that variable. So to create that new variable, which now has sex for female, first drop sex. Look here, look on the variable panel here. You can see I have sex here. Now when I say drop and then I write sex there, okay, drop sex, and I execute this command, the variable sex has been removed here. I've dropped that. Now once I've dropped that command, it's when now I can come and run generate sex, because it is not there. So it's something I'm generating. Are we communicating, Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
So now I can run that and it is now there. I hope that is okay.
Yes. What about the other one that you have used? I don't know whether it's string or it's str. What it means?
Now I was saying, at times Stata will, in most of the cases, at times it will assume that the data type of the variable you are creating is numeric. That is, it is of numbers. So we want to tell Stata early in advance that the variable sex is actually not numerical, but it is in words. str represents string. So we are telling Stata that the variable sex is a string. It is in words and it can take a maximum of 10 words. Are we communicating, Mr. Morrison?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is it. Any other concern?
Okay. The bit of saving, my network had some issues.
Now, to save the data set, back to you, Mr. Morrison. Under that editor window, I'm assuming you are on the edit window. So you can just right click this icon to save. or you can use the command. So which one do you prefer?
The command.
Very good. Now for the command, you use the command save. You just write save, then you space, you open quotation. Now on that quotation, you write the path to that folder that you want your data set to be saved. So you need to go to that particular folder or file where you want your data set to be saved. Suppose I want it to be saved here on this folder named STATA. So I'll right click that folder, go to properties and select the location and copy that. So now I'll go to my STATA and say, now I'm telling STATA, save the data set in that particular folder. That is its path. It is on desktop. Then I'll put a /. Remember, this one is ending at desktop. Oh, I know why we didn't get the data set from last time. Our data set was saved here. I hope you can all see this, because the name of the folder is STATA. So I need to have the name of the folder STATA. So I'll copy that name. Still it is under path. So I'll go to desktop, then the folder name is STATA, then I put underscore. Now underscore after /, not sorry, a backward slash. Now this is the directory to where I want my data to be stored, under desktop in a folder called STATA. But now what is the name of the data file? How do you want to save it? What will be the name of that data file as we are saving it? I can say save it Morrison. So I'll call it more. So Morrison dot the extension of that data file. No, normally for STATA, the extension of the data file is .dta, and I close the quotation and I'm done with my command. So I'm using the save command. In here I have the path to that folder. I'm giving it a name and the extension is .dta, and I run that command. And when I do, it is telling me the file is saved in this path and it is saved. Now when I navigate, I go to that particular file. Now I go to this STATA file. You can all see that I actually have the STATA data file named more. Mr. Morrison, are we communicating? Are we together? Are we at par?
Yes, we are together.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Very well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Another question? So here we go. I've actually alert someone to let me know once the meeting is on, so we can proceed. So we have actually entered our data in STATA using the editor. Now I'm just about to command that we'll be also be using. It's called browse. Now browse is basically you want to view your data. So when you browse your data, this is what I was telling you, the difference of browse and editor. Now under editor, it was data editor in bracket editor. We could change the values, but on browse, we are only able to see our data, but we can't modify any value. So we are actually browsing the data named more. And you see, even if when you double tap, it will even give an alert. I guess from your end, when you try to double tap, you are getting that alert. You cannot do anything. You cannot edit your data. Now, in most of the cases, because in most of the cases you want to do data entry with Stata, you'll be provided with an Excel file or CSV file or any other file. Once we put that data, we really don't want to change those values. And maybe at times as we browse the data on editor mode, we can accidentally change some values without noticing. Suppose the data set is very large. Now to avoid such, we normally browse our data. We browse our data so that we can just see how the variables are and explore our data without actually making unnecessary modification. So that is it. Now we have also talked about replace, that is suppose we want to that is entering the data, replace values in data set. We've also talked about label variable, that is to label a variable to give a name. We have talked about that. Now label define, we have done that, like defining our variables only for sex. I think that you can do it on your own. You can give it a label. Now I want to teach you one dangerous command. It's very dangerous. Suppose I was doing analysis with this particular data set. Now I'm done, and you see the variables have been listed here. No, I don't want this data set. I want maybe to bring a new data set, or maybe to redefine a new data set altogether. So I don't need this one that is here. So I need to do away, to clear with it. So to do that, we run the command clear. So when we want to clear the existing data set, there is one command that you must be careful. At times you will run that and your data set will disappear and you start crying. And imagine you have created that data set. The beauty is that you'll have the commands here so that you can rerun them. So when I say clear, you can see on the variables, all the variables are gone and my data file is empty. I don't have any data file. Up to that point, any question? Because I've cleared the data set. So are we clear? I mean, am I clear? Like, do you understand? Yes, Eric, Opio. Yes, okay, Eric, then Morrison, in that order.
I have a question.
Kindly ask.
Suppose you are missing the variable view and the data view. How can you do so that you can retrieve them back?
You're saying you are missing the variable view and
if you look at the properties, there are variables and data. If you are missing them in the screen, what can you do to bring them back?
Opio is asking the question Esther was asking. The variable here, the variable panel and the property panel are not there, and you want to bring them back. And I just said everything on this panel, you can find it on window. So you go to window. When you go to window, you have the view option. But even before you go to the view, all those windows are here. All those panels are here. You can see we have the command, we have the result. So if it is not there, the variable view or the property, just click, it will appear. If the property, just click that and it will appear. Opio, am I answering your question?
Thank you. I can see them back.
Okay. Yes, Morrison, followed by Lawrence in that order.
Okay. I'm asking if you use the command clear.
Yes.
Is there a way you can undo it and get back or retrieve your cleared data?
That is why I said it is a very dangerous command that I'm teaching you. There is no undo unless you rerun the procedure.
How?
I mean, Morrison is making me to regret why I showed you that command. When I say to rerun, you have all these commands here. You can see on the review. You have all those commands that you have actually been doing since we started this class. All of them are here. So you can run them and generate your data. If you generated your data, you can actually run them from there. And I'll show you how you can save. I'll show you how you can save this. You see, we have those in reds show that they had errors. So you can actually right click all of them, and when you just select one, then Control A for selecting all of them, and then you see this option here. It is to filter errors. We are removing those with errors. So when you click that, all those with errors are gone. So the first thing that we did was to open. So you see, I'm just running these commands. I'll be running these commands, and I'll have everything that I was having. So I'll click that, edit. That I just click that command, edit, and I run. You see, it has opened the edit window. I go to set variable 1. I run. You see, so you go to generate 1 in 1. So you are running them. So you see, and you are retrieving. Now that is the only way you are retrieving. You can see now it has started changing. I have no variable 1 all the way. So if we had, you will run these procedures. Now, having that said, the simpler way to do this will now make me introduce what we call the do file again, reintroduce actually, because I talked about that. Now, do files is basically a file that stores the command. It is a file that stores the command. Now, do file is a file that stores the command. So basically, we can actually also write the commands on a do file and run them from there. Now that I have run procedures here and I've lost everything, I can just copy all these commands. So I right click, Control A to highlight all of them, Control C to copy all of them. Then here you have an option to open do. That is a do file. Or I will go to files and you can see there is do. That is a do file. So I can select that. Now basically, but now this is to open a do file. They're already saved. But now when I have this shortcut here, it will open a new do file. Here is where now we can have all our commands and actually even save them. So I'll just paste them, Control V. You see, I have all commands, and so far, what is that? We have actually executed 51 commands. So from here, Mr. Morrison, I can run one at a time to get my desired output. From here, I can even observe. Okay, let me just minimize this. I can even observe the do file. Now this one you can save and even share it with someone else so that you can see the command we've been doing. This one. So you see, I can run these procedures, and there's now here you can undo because you are writing commands. You can redo. You see the options and all that. You can execute the do and all that. So basically, you'll be running them. You'll be running them one at a time. So like edit here, I can select that to run that, and it is running. You see, it is opening the edit window. So again, I can come to so you'll be running them. And because I want to do it very fast, when I look at this one, it is setting a variable all the way, and here it is renaming it to ID. So I can select all of them here and run them. So run that to that point, and actually it is working very nice. So from there you can generate them again and again using your commands. But there is actually no undo in this. When you clear, there is no way you undo. That was why I was saying it is a very dangerous. Morson, am I answering your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other question? No question.
Can we run?
Sorry?
If we copy the commands on the do, what do we call it?
A do file.
Yeah, on the do file. Can we run the entire nini at once?
Yes, you select all
entire
of it.
Commands at once.
Yes, you select it all and you run and it will execute. But now remember, the clear is also part of the command. So be careful not to run it again. Otherwise, unafuta zero na ndika.
We can remove it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Any other question? Any other question? Now I don't know if we can continue. I'm still very young and energetic. The next thing that we are supposed to discuss is we have been entering data manually to STATA. Now, how about importing? Maybe we're provided with an Excel file or any other file. How can we import data to STATA? How can we import that to STATA and be able now to do our analysis and all that? That is the next question. That is the next thing that we need to discuss. How to import data from other sources to STATA. That is what you're supposed to discuss. After discussing that, we were also saying, we have been discussing this. We have been saying that there are a number of variables. There are types of variables. And they are basically, in statistics, we have what we call the qualitative and the quantitative variable. The qualitative are also known as the categorical variable. Like for instance, we are saying sex. We were writing female whenever the respondent is a female, and a male whenever the respondent is a male. But now the software will not understand, STATA will not understand, and be able to generate the output of those strings. We need to assign labels. We need to do what we call the value label. How can we do that? Just like the same way we were doing in SPSS. That is also the next thing that we need to discuss. That is the next thing that we need to discuss in our discussion. So I don't know, because of time, I don't know if you guys still want me to discuss that today, or we can do that tomorrow. So what's your opinion? You see, you are the boss of this class. You decide, you make the decision. So if you say you say tomorrow, I'll be good to go. If you say today, I still have some minutes. I'm seeing I've not received any notification so far. So those saying tomorrow, those are saying today, right now 1, those are saying tomorrow 0. Very fast, and we decide. Importing and it is as if I was waiting to write the 0. Because even before I said anything, I was saying a 0. But I understand some of you guys have some classes and need to prepare for tomorrow. That is why I always give you the opportunity to decide. So let's meet on the next lesson. We'll look at how to import data from other files, how to have the value labels and all that. Now, how to generate new variables, how to merge data sets, how to append data sets. That is what we'll be discussing tomorrow. Then after that, now that is under data manipulation still. After that, we'll start doing some analysis, descriptive analysis to inferential. And now I'll be expecting you guys to be very interactive because these are things we discussed. So there being no... Yes, someone is having a question. If you have a question, kindly ask. If you have a question, kindly ask. Otherwise, I wish you a good night and may you wake up onto a good news. Bye bye.